All right, good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, January 21st, 2021, and we're just going to get right into it because there's a lot to cover, not just having to do with Biden, just so you guys know ahead of time so you don't think, oh, he's only going to talk about Biden this episode. So let us get right into it. Now, to start off with, Biden got inaugurated. So contrary to a lot of the different theories and all that, he got inaugurated, it's done, it's over. Looks like it's time to move on. Simple as that, right? And for those who don't, and those who want to go and start a third party or something like this in a peaceful manner, by all means. Now, so he got inaugurated. The next thing is that he signed a bunch of executive orders reversing Trump's Muslim ban, funding for the border wall, pretty much everything that Trump did when he got in 4 years ago to reverse Obama-era things, Biden put back in. He went back into the Paris Climate Accord, did a bunch of, I think it was something like 13, 14 executive orders, not to mention a bunch of other legislative things that he signed. When it's an executive order, obviously it goes right through pretty much, and it takes into effect immediately. The question is how realistic those effects will be. But again, it's his first, not even second, first full 48 hours technically, or 24 hours actually. So let's just give him some time anyways. But the next thing is that I do have a little bit of a bone to pick with what was going on last night. And again, the whole thing is that if you don't like it, don't watch it, which is very simple. And I agree 100%. But this whole thing of all these celebrities that were performing last night, like Bon Jovi, Bruce Springsteen, Demi Lovato, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, all of them, at J-Lo, I got nothing against that. But if they're trying to use these celebrities to lure more people in, like more regular people like you and I, personally, and I could be very wrong, guys, tell me if I'm wrong, but personally, I don't see the attraction as the same as it was like 10, 15 years ago. If 10, 15 years ago, if a politician of any kind got, Jay-Z or any singer of any kind, musician, to come play for them, it brought in more people. But clearly, we saw that didn't work when Hillary Clinton did that back in 2016, right? And so I think ever since then, it's kind of been this downward spiraling effect where people just don't care. They're like, listen, if you think celebrities are going to get us to like that politician that's bringing in those celebrities, good luck with that. Now, I'm not saying that because Biden's in right now. I'm saying that regardless. I'm like Trump when he brought out like Lil Pump at his rally. To me, that was like, okay, whatever. Like Lil Pump endorsed him and then whatever. You know what I mean? It's not going to make me like Trump more. I know the whole thing is that it looks good and, there's people behind either political campaign or party or candidate. But you know what I mean, guys? Like, I'm just saying it doesn't work like it used to. At least that's what it seems. The next thing is that this is important. Janet Yellen, who's now the former chair of the Federal Reserve, but Biden appointed her to be in charge of the U.S. Secretary of Treasury. She said that Bitcoin should be curtailed because it's mainly used for illegal funding and transactions. Now, my God, I personally think there's so many things wrong with that statement. I think that could be partly saying that, the fear of Bitcoin and blockchain technology. The whole thing is that it's terrible unless major institutions and organizations around the world can get control of it and harness it, right? So again, marijuana was terrible until some governments around the world figured out how to profit from it. You're always going to have the black market. So people will always be using cryptocurrency, not just Bitcoin, but cryptocurrency to transfer illegal funds and do illegal things and stuff like that. I get that. But it's the same thing. It's like, to me at least, unless I'm missing something, that's like saying just because, cash is used in drug deals, does that mean we should ban cash? At the end of the day, it's always, she can't be using that's just one piece of the pie in an argument there, so to speak. And I'm not saying that because I'm a staunch supporter of any type of cryptocurrency. I am skeptical. However, I'm leaning at this moment, and my mind could always be changed. I'm leaning more towards the fact that this is a very good thing in many ways, unless it gets taken over and controlled by the government, obviously, or by, the UN or something, and then it just becomes another global currency, and then it's a mess if it goes down that way, right? Next thing is that the mainstream media is comparing Biden's team. By the way, I'm going to get this Biden stuff out of the way so we don't have to talk about it in the whole episode. But the news is comparing Biden's team to Trump's pretty much. So like what his team's already done, his administration, all that stuff. I think it's not so much about comparing to the previous administration. Because, yes, they did compare Trump to the Obama administration, but not often. I think it's because, and I think I'm bang on, regardless if you like Trump or not, the guy gets ratings, the guy gets views, the guy gets clicks. And now that he's gone, they're kind of clinging on to whatever that rating spike had. And I'm not just talking about the mainstream media outlets. There's a lot of YouTube channels that do, live streams and stuff that I like very much, that you notice already in the last 24 hours their views have decreased, because the whole thing was like specifically between 2018 and now, between the midterms and now, it was all about, Trump is fighting and he's resisting, right? And so people were interested to give their take, interested to comment and things like that. There's still a substantial amount of people watching, don't get me wrong, but that whole thing of Trump dying out, especially now that he's banned from social media, I think overall that was a bad thing for the news outlets, because now they're not going to sell as many newspapers, as many covers, as many articles, they're not going to get as many clicks, and they just got to accept that, because from 2015, from the second he came down that escalator, up until yesterday, literally yesterday, the headlines for Trump were non-stop. And the guy, Trump was right when he said that he was the golden goose. Because it's true, whether you like him or not, people are still watching. They're either watching to hate on him, either watching to support him, or watching just to get an understanding of what's going on, right? But now that he's gone, again, it's kind of ironic, right? They hate him so much, but they love him for the ratings. The next thing is that Bernie Sanders memes of how he was sitting down at the inauguration with his legs crossed, looking all like stale and not pissed off, but just, whatever, like straight-faced. It went viral all over the internet, so that's kind of funny. Just thought I'd throw that in there. The next thing is that Biden said his first foreign call is going to be to Trudeau, which is the leader of my country. Okay, great. It's going to be a boring call. Many experts in the UK are saying that the lockdown isn't working, because they're saying now they've recorded their second consecutive day with the highest COVID cases and deaths ever in the UK. It's either... Look, this is why I didn't bring up the virus yesterday, because it's like it's being covered so much that it's gotten to the point where unless there's something super major, I don't want to cover it all the time. Look, assuming it's real, and I got to say that, as you guys know, I've said a few times for YouTube, assuming it's real, and I'm taking both positions on this, because there's some crazy stuff out there that people have fallen for over the years that have gone into the minds of the masses, but it's either, assuming it's real, it's either that people are not listening, or there's not enough enforcement, or literally the lockdowns don't work because the stronger strains are spreading in some other way. But the problem is there's so much misinformation combined with real information. We ourselves don't know, or at least I don't know, at the very least. Maybe you guys might. I don't know what's real and what isn't. And I'm serious when I say you guys might, because for those of you who take more time out of your day to look into things, or have some type of experience or a friend that could give you some insight, it always helps, right? The next thing is that Antifa attacked a Democratic headquarters in Portland. Apparently tried to burn it down, allegedly. This could be some right-wing kind of thing, just trying to jab at Antifa. However, Antifa has been known to be violent. In New Jersey, they're classified by Homeland Security as a domestic terrorist organization, which is interesting that it's just in New Jersey. Again, and not in places like Oregon, Portland, And so, and I'm not just talking about Antifa. We talk about both extremists. Any extremist group is not good. Like, at the end of the day, let's put it like that. Whether it's freaking Al Qaeda, ISIS, the far right, the far left, not good at all. So again, that's interesting. Now, there's something else I want to talk about as well too. Has to do with China. So, a couple things. China locked down 1.7 million people again in Beijing. I don't know how long that's going to go for. Not sure, to be honest with you. However, the more important thing is that, actually, a couple things. They then slapped sanctions on Mike Pompeo and a lot of other Trump administration officials. I mean, they were going after China hard, and I guess they're kind of saying, listen, now that you're out of office, you're going to get what you deserve, sort of thing, for coming after us. But look, there's a lot of perspectives to take on China here. Like, there's a lot of things they're doing. But again, what we're noticing here, and I'm not defending China, just like I always say, I'm not defending Russia, but I'm a big fan of the West. But at the same time, we have to look and say, okay, China seems to be the new, I guess we could call enemy or adversary, because you always have your main ones, your main powerhouse countries like Russia and all that, and then you have your small ones that are like, the crazy third world countries like North Korea, Kim Jong-un, right? But the focus seems to be going from Russia to China now. Now, of course, the whole idea is to create multiple adversaries or enemies to give the illusion, and some of it might be real, I'm not going to lie. A lot of the threats, I'm sure, are real, but there's fake ones to give the illusion that, you're being attacked on both sides. Like, for example, that big Russian hack that occurred that they said they found about a month ago, and it infiltrated their systems of multiple agencies back in March. Was that hack really real? And I'm not saying that because I want Russia to be innocent. I don't care if they're guilty or innocent. I'm saying that because we have yet to see proof. And the whole thing is like, okay, how do you prove someone hacked into a system? You're going to show the public lines of code? Yeah, show us lines of code. And for those who understand it, we'll tell everybody else. Simple as that. You want to maybe make some of it public so you can get some type of public organization access to it so independent institutions can look at it. And even then, we have to question, are these independent institutions being paid off to say a certain thing? Again, like I said, I love the West, but it's got a lot of problems, and that's one of them, right? Money being the fact that it can essentially buy anything and everything. Now, the next thing is that Twitter locked the account of China's U.S. embassy in the U.S. for their tweet on Yin Yang, I believe. I'm sorry if I butchered that. Saying that Uyghur women were no longer, quote, baby-making machines, end quote. And I apologize if I butchered the word Uyghur. I really do. Yeah, I mean, okay, finally, it's about time that Twitter does something in favor of the United States. And I'm serious, because whether you're on the left, whether you're on the right, or you're a centrist or independent, what have you, when we look and we see that Twitter is trying to follow some type of globalized, centralized policy, it doesn't work. So why is it that when they censor people in the West, they say, oh, we're trying to abide by the rest of the rules of other countries, but then other countries have strict rules against certain things not coming up on Twitter and on Twitter's feed, just in that specific country, and Twitter goes, yeah, no problem, we'll abide by it. So you're disrespecting the same country that you were even allowed to be started up in. You get what I'm saying? And Tim Pool mentioned this on Joe Rogan's show with Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey and his lawyer Vijay Gad about 1.5 to 2 years ago, I believe it was. And he's right. And Jack Dorsey's CEO said, the CEO of Twitter, he goes, globalized central policy, pretty much meaning rules for websites that apply all over the world no matter what, doesn't work because different countries have different cultures, have different views on things, right? For example, terrible example, but I'm going to use it. China is literally murdering and slaughtering and harvesting organs of Christians, Muslims, Uyghurs, you name it, right? And so when you see that, you'd think, okay, on a public level, that would not go on in the U.S. or in the West. That wouldn't be allowed, right? Or at least not as extremely as they're doing in China. And so I can understand. I can understand why Twitter locked it. Good. Because finally, for once, they're doing something in favor of the West. Look, Twitter's made mistakes, and I'm not trying to say they got to be perfect. But just like anything, those Senate hearings, those congressional hearings, they don't do anything. All they do is show that big tech has control over politics. They donate to both sides, so that whichever side comes out on top, you're still in favor of it. Maybe you donate a little bit more to one side, a little bit more to the other every so often. But at the end of the day, you're still hedging your bets, so to speak, right? The next thing is that 900,000 Americans, according to Fox Business, filed for unemployment benefits last week. Look, it gets worse before it gets better. That's all I can say, right? And those are the people that we know about. We don't know about the people that are not registered in the system and things like this. So it gets worse before it gets better, and that's always the case. And some people might say, Dave, that's a bit of a cop-out answer. Okay, that's a cop-out answer because you're pretty much saying that, if it keeps getting worse or it keeps staying the way it is, you're just going to keep saying that phrase until it gets better. But at the end of the day, we'll see it coming. We'll see, the light over the horizon, so to speak. And that's a metaphor, obviously, but the question then becomes, is that even realistic right now? It's hard to say. It depends where in the world, what your job is, what industry you're in. It's very, very contextual, so to speak. The next thing is that there were twin suicide bombings that hit the heart of Iraq's capital, with 28 confirmed dead so far. That's actually the last thing. Well, look, this comes down to the question... This comes down to the question of, should the U.S. and the powerhouses of the world, like Russia and all that in China, interfere in Middle Eastern issues? Because the whole point is, it's a humanitarian crisis. We don't want people dying. The question then becomes with the UN and, the NWO agenda and all that stuff. And I'm not trying to get conspiratorial about that. I'm just saying the question then becomes, should countries interfere? Because, Trump's whole thing was, no, we should get out of the Middle East. Unless we're going for the oil, we should get the hell out. That was Trump's thing. Other people say, well, we have to have a diplomatic approach. We have to do things like, reach our hand out to whatever groups or tribes or governments or organizations are leading these countries and say, listen, this type of stuff has to stop. Ultimately, I don't know enough about the Middle Eastern history, even though I know a fair amount, but I don't know enough to comment on this. I do want to say that it's very terrible what's going on. Nobody could deny that. But again, the question then becomes that I think we have to have a discussion on, which is should the U.S. and the West, or maybe Russia and all that, interfere in the Middle East? Russia seems to only do things when it benefits them, and that's a result of Putin's ideological perspectives, which is fine. He's running the country; he could do what he wants, right? So, okay, the question then becomes: should the U.S. get involved? They've always been known to be the powerhouse, the big brother of the world, always trying to push their agenda, either publicly or secretly, all across the world. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say. But anyways, to sum it all up, I'm sure there's some other news out there, but all of it is being covered up with Biden all around the world, pretty much everywhere. So with that being said, we're going to let it roll over for a couple days, let it die out, the whole excitement of the Biden thing. Probably going to be another week or two before the media really calms down about it. But again, it is Thursday. We don't do these episodes Friday and Saturday. We do it Sunday to Thursday, and that's because Sunday morning I like to do just a nice fresh recap of what happened Thursday night, Friday, and then Saturday, right? So thank you guys so much for watching or listening today, and we will catch you for the regularly scheduled episode later today, which I think you'll like. Going to be super interesting. So cheers.